Ericsson Television and TV and Media have been involved for many years in many different combinations of companies. This was a sort of a slide of the highlights over the previous years. It did have a load more highlights on it, but there was so much information that it was difficult to read. So we had to cut it back to just some of the main points. And there's some important points on there. The world's first live 3D broadcast. We've been in this industry for more than 20 years, and we've got a track record of first-to-market innovation solutions. So our history in digital television in Ericsson stretches right back, actually beyond 1996, but we'll start there with the world's first OFDM modulator. Lots and lots of points in here. First DVB-T system launch, taking us right up to the last on this slide, which is IBC 2011, where we were awarded the Innovation Award for our work with DNA Finland for their DVB-T2. So how did Ericsson get to where they are in television? They've achieved this mainly by a series of acquisitions. Personally, I think the most important one they made was the acquisition of Tambo Television in 2007. That's how Ericsson acquired myself. We, in Tambo Television, have a massive, long history in television, stretching back years and years. This acquisition process is still ongoing. You can see the acquisition of Microsoft Media Room in 2013, and I think last week the acquisition of Red Bee was finally announced. So Ericsson are investing a lot of money in television and media, and they're acquiring market-leading companies to position them as the world leader in digital television. We hear a lot. I'm kind of deviating a bit from the normal sort of speech here, but we hear a lot about the future of digital broadcast and how multi-screen solutions, on-demand solutions, TV over internet are all very important, which they are. But we should also bear in mind that traditional linear television, scheduled broadcast, still has a really important role to play in delivering TV media to people. Ericsson has a group called the Consumer Labs, and they carry out all sorts of studies in all sorts of areas. And they recently carried out a study on television. It's a massive document, but two very important points are that 93% of consumers still watch scheduled broadcast television every week. So people, they do want to watch television on the internet, but they still want to turn the news on at 9 o'clock in the evening every evening and watch what's going on in the world. Also, it's important to note that 70% of consumers time shift television every week. So streaming, downloading, recording broadcast content. And this is important to consider when you're developing and putting your system together, because you have to understand how you're going to cater for that. There's a number of different ways of doing this, but you have to understand, are you going to achieve that in the set-top box by maybe having some sort of built-in hard disk and allowing your customers to record, or are you going to provide some sort of over-the-top service which allows your customers to stream to a set-top box, maybe over the internet. So this is all part of the upfront planning that has to take place when designing a system as complicated as a DVB-T or T2 network. And carrying on from that, the selection of the end-user set-top box is very important. You have to bear in mind your plan going forwards. You have to know what you want to do this week, and you have to know what you want to do next year, in the next 5 years. And you have to keep that plan in mind. What you don't want to end up is a situation where you launch today with a particular set-top box, and in 6 months' time, when you add new services or new offerings to your customers are forced to go out and buy a new set-top box. That's just going to lead to unhappy customers, and people vote with their money. it's quite interesting that we all are quite happy to change our mobile phones every year, maybe every 18 months, to get the latest, shiniest model with all new features. But with our television receiving equipment, we buy that and we want to keep that for 5, 10 years. So we need to plan, and we need to make sure that the plans that we come up with, we stick to, and that they encompass everything that our end user is going to require. So let's have a look at the central head end. Ericsson, and in particular Tandberg, are known for the compression head end, which kind of takes us up to here, and we achieve that with our own products, our own market-leading IRDs, encoders, and multiplexers. There can be some additional services over the top to provide non-linear and OTT services. Going forward from that, we offer, by working with partners, we offer the complete end-to-end chain, T2 gateways, transport to the transmitter sites, which could be using the Ericsson microwave link, T2 modulators, and transmission equipment, which generally, I mean, the diagram is a little bit, isn't quite correct there, because generally you'd be looking at modular systems there anyway. But Ericsson achieved this by working with selected partners on an opportunity-by-opportunity basis. We've got good relationships with pretty much, certainly most people in this room, I think. I don't think we've made too many enemies. It's important to control and monitor any system you put together. So we have our own Encompass monitoring, which will monitor up to the output of the T2 gateway. And then over the top of that, we often find that customers want a more inclusive end-to-end monitoring solution. So we'll put an NMS over the top, which can monitor pretty much anything that you want to connect to it. So I mentioned our own compression head end, and I need really to talk a little bit about the AVP 4000, which is our latest encoder offering. It's the development of 20 plus years of work in Tandberg and Ericsson to get to where we are with this video encoding solution. We've achieved this by actually producing our own chip. In the past, most encoder manufacturers relied on off-the-shelf chips and chipsets, which meant that they relied very much on the chip providers to work with them on the development. Because we own the chip and we own the chip development, we control the whole process, which means that it puts us in a unique position to be able to bring products to the market much quicker. Also, it's interesting to note that this is, I believe, still the only encoder on the market which will take you from contribution to distribution environments. It's a dual power supply, six channel encoder, so six services can be encoded at any one time in this chassis, and it's all software upgradable. So the same hardware can be used for your SD 420 services, and then if you want to repurpose that device for maybe an HD 422 contribution service, then it's simply a new license to do that. The advantage of this to you is you have a much more flexible platform, your spares holding is reduced, and it allows you the ability for your platform to grow as your requirements change. So there's a little bit of information about the new Ericsson chip. It's a seriously impressive piece of equipment. Some large numbers of things that it does there. 2,688 10-bit processors, more than 1 billion transistors, and I think this is quite interesting. It kind of puts it more into perspective. It's the equivalent processing power of 500 i7 cores, and that's all on a chip that's about that big. It's an in-house design. As I say, we own it, and we own the algorithms that go into that chip. So you can be assured that the development going forward will be continuing. So let's have a look quickly at some integration services, and we can talk about what service Ericsson can offer you there. So traditionally, Tandberg and then Ericsson were known for the compression head end and the services associated with putting a compression head end together. But we realised there's more to a complete system, a complete solution than just the compression head end. So we've expanded our services offering to offer via our third-party providers and our own project management teams the additional parts that give us the broadcast operation centres that fit around that. So that could be things like adding EPGs, T2 gateways, maybe disaster recovery systems, conditional access is very important. Subtitling systems, and even delay and censorship systems. I know they're very important in the Asian market, maybe not so much here, but all these things can be selected and put in there. Moving out to the distribution and transmission network, we talked about maybe using Ericsson microwave links or there's many other methods to distribute your signals to your transmitter sites. It can be quite a contentious issue. Some customers are really, really keen on having managed services and having a third party to provide all the operation, maintenance and support for their system. Other customers, they want to do everything themselves. And it doesn't matter. We're happy to provide them. We're happy to provide all or any of the services. This slide just indicates the different services that Ericsson Broadcast Services, which is another acquisition that Ericsson made 2 years ago, I think, can offer, and how that fits in with the Ericsson television services. So really the broadcast service people here, this section, they're concentrating on the pre-production and the baseband type solutions. So editing, subtitling, storage and archiving, adding any metadata if you have any VOD services. And then in Ericsson television going forward, then we're looking at the playout centers, transmission, compression, and delivering it to the home. So some capabilities for our professional services arm. Now, some of you will notice this is based on, it talks a lot about telecom networks and how many people there are in services. And this is, I admit, this is very much focused on telecoms. But there are a lot of similarities between the technologies and the processes involved with rolling out a telecom network as there are with a television network. So whilst our television team isn't all 56,000 people, we do have the ability to call on these people should we need them. So the acquisition that Ericsson made has worked really well for us in the television part, in giving us access to those resources. So we do rely on a lot of third-party vendors and partners. These are just a small selection of some of the people we've worked with in the past and continue to work with. We have our customer support team to provide 24/7 support over dedicated support teams. We also operate as the interface to the customer. So any of the third-party vendors purchased through us, we will operate all the support from them. We understand that it's often difficult to identify where an issue lies in a system, and you don't want to be spending your time identifying which part, which box is at fault. So they report the issue to our support teams, and they do the investigation. They do the tier 1 support, and then they interface with the third-party vendor, again, to allow you to get on with the business of delivering television. One of the interesting training offerings that we have is the Certification for TV Professionals course. And this is a vendor-agnostic training program that's been put together by Ericsson to train people in the basic principles behind digital television. It's vendor agnostic, so it's not about people coming in and learning about Ericsson products. It's about people coming in and learning about the principles behind compression, multiplexing, conditional access, all the bits that you need to make a successful solution. A few references of customers that we've worked with over the past few years. Again, just a small selection of our many, many customers. And we'll look a bit more here about DNA Finland. We all in the industry are probably very familiar with DNA Finland. We're very proud of it. We have a long association with them, and the system is still ongoing. We still have a team of people working with DNA, constantly developing their solution, expanding it, and working with them to deliver the best solution that we can. It was quite an interesting solution in as much as DNA owned and operated the cell towers. So to save expense, they chose to use a medium to low power solution using their existing infrastructure. This resulted in maybe using more transmitter stations than they would have done with a high power solution, but as the infrastructure was already there, in the end it ended up saving them a lot of money. And as I mentioned at the start, the service was launched in 2010, and in 2011 was awarded the Innovation Award for Content Delivery at IBC. So we're very proud of that. This last thing, if you remember nothing else, this last line, I think, is very, very important. It's important that you see us as a partner through the process. We're there to offer advice, we're there to work with all the way through at every step. And the earlier we get engaged, and the earlier we start working together, the more chance we have of together making a successful system. Thank you very much.